So yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us again for our March webinar. Today we're going to be talking about Hive and utilising Hive's new advanced scanning features to kick off workflow process, which I've been hopefully well informed. That's exactly what we're going to be showing you today. There's a few slides in the deck, but in general, Damien is going to be doing a live demonstration. So he's got a million web browsers open. He's going to be flicking between screens, but hopefully it will be a nice, seamless morning for you. I think we're looking at about 15 to 20 minutes. I know you can't speak back to us, but in the bottom right-hand corner, the little triangle, square, circle symbol, I believe there should be a chat function or a Q&A section in there. So if you do have any questions, then please do drop your messages in there or take a note of anything that you might want to ask, and you can drop us all an email when the webinar's over. So that's all you got from me today. We're going to hand you over from the east of the country over to the west of the country and hand you over to Max and Damien. Thanks for joining, everyone. Enjoy.
Thank you, Di. Well, you've got the show here, so I'm gonna hand over to you.
Well, I don't know. This is quite conversational. I was just saying to well, firstly, thank you everyone who has taken time to dial in this morning. These little tiny webinars are quite it's quite ironic, really, that we decided to do these webinars in sort of 10, 15, 20 minutes max, and they still take 3 days to work out what you're actually going to say. And it's a bit like doing your homework. You're still doing it on the bus on the way in, because we're always thinking of new things right to the last minute. And the thing about this particular one is, if it works properly, there should be nothing to see. So Max and I are going to have to be quite conversational and kind of round it out. But hopefully we're seeing a splash page on a presentation there about what we're doing and where we're going and what we're doing with the Hive advanced scanning features. I mean, Max, when did this start coming out? So I'm not very good with dates and things like that.
Last year it came out, the new advanced scanning with the metadata fields and whatnot. So
yeah, absolutely. So it's not new. It's been there for a little minute, but we kind of haven't really pushed it as far as we perhaps could have done. Certainly in terms of showing you what we're doing, we're sort of aware of what we could do, and it stems back with the MF product. We had advanced scanning in MF for quite some time, and on the Selectec price book, if you take a look at the price book, you'll notice that we've had an MF gateway tool in our own price books. Do take a look; it's one of the enhanced margin products as well, so it's ours. And what it did was it used the advanced scanning API from PaperCut to allow us to drive some workflow. But that MF advanced scanning feature never got all of the features that we at that point, but I do believe there's shiny and new things coming down the road for that as well, which is quite exciting. But when we received the advanced scanning functionality for Hive, we had a greatly enhanced set of features. In fact, what we really were hoping that we might have got for MF when we were developing the gateway back along. But it's safe to say, Max, isn't it? There's a lot more going on in advanced scanning currently with Hive than there is in MF. It's a real sea change. So that's for us, that kind of really started off our thinking in terms of what we could do with this thing, what it looks like from an advanced client front end, and how that can play a role in workflow, especially when we combine it with some of the tools that we have and some of the tools that we know are out there that allow both scan integration and electronic integration. So really the ability to go and talk to customers about one process that can manage that scan input and the workflow that's required from there, from maybe Postroom or AP, things like that, but combining that with functionality to allow a customer to include electronic process in the same piece because of the way that we're processing stuff. And Max, we were talking yesterday, weren't we, with a customer about exactly that requirement, that we need to be able to unify all of these different sources. And this advanced scanning piece from Hive, I think, has actually really made that possible, especially if we're talking about cloud type environments. I'm kind of waiting for Max to validate. Or...
I was going to say absolutely. I was waiting for you to stop, but yeah, absolutely.
Wait for me to stop. I won't stop.
I was going to say I'll be here a while.
Okay. So it's quite nice actually. I get to chat to Max. Normally Ben's here, and we just take the mick out of each other for half an hour and then go for tea. So it's quite nice to actually have Max here. Can actually add some. Don't tell him I said this, but actually add some actual knowledge, which is probably a thing. So let's move on. Let's just try and. There we go. Right. Hive to Workflow. So if you're not familiar, I'm hoping by this point everybody is relatively familiar with Hive as a product and with advanced scanning within Hive. I mean, would you say, Max? I think most people this has been done to death, I think, hasn't it, in terms of the functionality from PaperCut and webinars. Have we got any other content online about this stuff?
Not about this specifically, no. This is still relatively new, and with what you're about to show with the data source lookups and all the rest of it is still pretty fresh.
Okay,
so it's not something that we've done before.
No, okay, cool. Well, if you're not aware, obviously Hive PaperCut product, fantastic. Embedded controllers on the UIs of devices, fantastic. But what's really sort of come out of this is that we finally have the ability to build those user interfaces on the MFD front screens to be able to give the customer a much more kind of fluid experience as to what they're looking for. And there's some screenshots here. I would urge you, if you do not have Hive, I believe there's an NFR program for Hive. Is that correct, Max? So
there is.
Want to prod and poke this, which is always the best way, get hold of your Selectec account manager. They're the smiley happy ones that are always happy to see you, and they will set you up with an NFR, so you can actually prod this functionality and test it out and see what we're talking about. And of course, as we roll into the other things that we're doing with it, you can prod those products as well. So we can everything you're seeing today, you can actually have a look at, have a poke of it as well. But the big shift with this over something like MF is the ability to create these kind of user interfaces on the device that allow us to do things like text input fields at the device, allow us to do things like drop lists. They allow us to look at, as you can see here, lookup tables, which allow us to, you know, kind of upload a list of values that people can choose to populate different field values and stuff like that. And they might be accounts payable values or GL codes. They could be client matter codes, the usual type of stuff that allow people to do that indexing actually at the device. And Max, this is an inclusive feature of Hive, isn't it? This is not an optional element. This is included in the application set.
Included in the core product, yeah. This is
right. So there we go. And I'm relying on Max, by the way, to correct me when I'm wrong about the PaperCut Hive thing, because he's been climbing all over this for a long time. So that's kind of why he's here. It's like a safety net in terms of the Hive product. So if you want to know anything about that, maybe raise your hand to Max, not me, because I play on the other side of the stream. A couple other features here that are available in that front end: data validation, stuff like making sure that the email that you typed in is an email, or the date format is correct, or it's a specific decimal or something like that. Doesn't yet offer us full regex functionality, I don't believe, in there, Max, but that's still a very powerful function of it. And we can use all of these fields, and I will just take a quick look at this at the moment. I can't show you a device because I don't have one on my personal network, but we do have some videos that we can share with you if you're interested. But I would recommend that you hook up to your own device and have a prod, if I'm honest. But we can start to use the field validation that we have to create things like file names that we can start to use in the routing and the paths that we share to it. Or of course we can generate, well, not of course, just letting you know, you can generate a supporting XML file and or a JSON file. And I particularly like that functionality of being able to deliver one and or both, which is quite a nice feature for that. So we take a look at just quickly at the Hive front end of this. Let me come out of here so you can see we're in the integrated scanning space of Hive, and it's quite easy to set up a new profile. You literally just go add a quick sound. We've only got 10-15 minutes, which I'm already going to overshoot, so I won't take you through that, because in best Blue Peter fashion, here's one we already built. Okay, and you can see this one's been focused on something like accounts payable for somebody who just wants to archive invoices and things away correctly, and we'll see where that could drive workflow. But you can see here that we can add custom fields. So in this case, this is a drop down. I can put the different labels in. I can specify the default value. I can control how it works. And you can see with fields, I can choose a text file, you know, just a simple text field that I can type into, and there's an example of one of those here. I've put default values in here, by the way, just so I can drive a sample email. But of course, we could actually have prompts and bits and pieces, like just a blank space so people fill that in. And we could also do data lookups. But long and short of this is you drop a CSV file, upload it into the thing, and then allocate which fields you want to search on or which fields get displayed. Allows you to have a lookup table within Hive, which of course is better than having to type in all the different values to put into a drop list. So
there's two different ways you can add that in via the easy print and scan option on the left. You can go in data sources and add it in there. Bottom right.
Yep, there you go.
There are your data sources.
Ah, there it is. Okay, so you can actually see the data source. Max has uploaded there. And if we come here, it will be set with that one. Quick scan to email, wherever that is. So let's take a look. So we can just show that running. And there you go. You can see that we can drive a field. And there you go. That's an example of what that's going to look like on the touchscreen. So just to summarize, we've got the standard components of advanced scanning. We've also then got the ability to add drop lists, straight text files, and a data lookup. We can put validation around those, and we can choose exactly how we want what to be displayed and which metadata we want dropped into the output file as well. And if we look at a template, I'm sorry, I'm spinning backwards and forwards here. We can actually start to see whether we want the output, how we want that to work. And you can see that we can use these variables in the file name, and they can also be pushed through into the JSON or whatever it is that we're actually going to use. Okay. And as you see, you can see nice images here as to how this is going to behave. We had some screenshots on the thing the other day. Get an NFR, poke it if you haven't so far. Okay. Right. So Hive. This feature is included. It's been around for a while. It's maturing quite nicely. We can control what we wanted it to do or what we want it to do. There's a question is posted in, can we scan to SMB from Hive? Max, I believe the answer natively with Hive is no. But of course, with workflow tools that we're integrating to in a moment, that is exactly one of the goals. It's a way that we can get Hive to scan directly into SMB or into SMB as an endpoint. So Hive natively goes to cloud sources. But using workflow in the way that we're going to be able to release into SMB as part of the course. So there we go. Hopefully that answers that. And again, one of the reasons we've done what we've done and where we're going to go. Right, so let's just do this. I'm actually going to snaffle. In fact, let's see whatever pictures we put in this. Okay, so data validation, custom naming, XML and JSON. So really cool, but there you go. That's up again. So talking about exactly what we're going to use those capture fields during scanning. You can see there that we've got a screenshot. User goes to scan, chooses the profile they want. The required questions are going to be put in front of them. They're driven by either text entry at the device, a drop list, or looking through a lookup table with search. All of those things are included within Hive. And then what's going to happen at the back of that is we can create the file names. We can drop those to cloud sources or to an email source, which is how we've adjusted things working with our side of it. And then we can deliver just the file name or an XML file or a JSON file or all of those things to allow us to do whatever we want to do with it. And again, just to reiterate, this is a standard feature of Hive. Okay, now what have we done with that as an example to drive out a workflow? So again, in that very BBC, other brands are available. Of course, you could use this client to drive workflows with other workflow tools, so long as they have the ability to interact with file names or XML or JSON. What we've done is taken those integrations a little bit further into the rest of the portfolio that we have, so we can move that forward in a couple of different ways. And if you're aware of our portfolio, you'll have heard of something called Folder and a lovely tool called Mash, and you will have heard of the Square 9 tool set. But what you may, as I said, I mentioned earlier, a thing on our price book has been there for a while, which is the PaperCut Square 9 embedded gateway. It's actually a Selectec product, and it took files from the MF embedded scanning feature, advanced scanning feature, and delivered it to Square 9's global capture tool. Now that's been updated. I believe he's actually on the call here somewhere, probably waiting for his 5 minutes of fame, I would hope, is Matt Green. He's a developer and he built that for us and he's modified it now. It's actually a much bigger thing. It'll be coming to market. We mentioned it at our big launch event in London a couple of weeks ago. If you weren't there, we're talk about that, get a hold of an account manager. But this is a thing called Axis, and Axis is now designed to work from Hive and into Square9's Global Capture SaaS instance as well. It can actually do just about anything, but it's been modified by Matt to work with the Hive features and SaaS products, so we can have that full cloud story should we want to. And why are we doing it? Well, because at the end of the day, if people are scanning stuff, there is probably a path that they want to just store things, but the reality is they want to drive those workflows. Title this was scanning from the box into workflows, keeping that middleware almost invisible to the customer in a lot of ways. It needs to be magic. I fill in some stuff at the machine and it delivers over there. And of course, that can be storage, including, yes, you could use SMB if you're using one of our middle tools, but yeah, we're talking about archiving things correctly within cloud storage environments. So we can use those Hive pieces to start to route to the right areas within Google Drive, for example, is a lovely example on the Hive and some of the Hive documentation around that, where we're using those fields to route to the correct elements within cloud storage. Of course, you might also want to be dropping stuff straight into the likes of Sage or Xero or QuickBooks, which you could do by creating import records or naming files correctly, or even writing connectors or leveraging connectors out of middleware, such as the tools that we have. You might be wanting to shape things up so they go into CRM. You might want to be shaping things so they go straight into ERP. Now, there's logos all over this, not because these are things that we've necessarily got out of the box straight away, or that we, that these are simple plugins and connectors, more just for you to be picking out some vibes in terms of brands that you might come across. We're a Xero house, for example, and we use Square9 to write directly into Xero. We've got customers that are switching from Dynamics on-premise to hosted ones. So these categories, these type of brands are the type of workflows that we find customers actually want to use all the time. So with all that in mind, let's actually take a little bit of a look and let's send some emails. This is super exciting. This is how we're actually driving the system forward. Okay, so you can't see me copying email addresses, but I don't have a device, so we're going to fake it until we make it. There we go. And I'm going to just paste in the email address, and you'll see that I'm actually delivering the file from the Hive client with the metadata that I will have filled in. I'm using default values because I don't have a UI, and I'm just dumping that directly into, in this case, the folder instance to do some workflow. And with the other one, I'm actually going to send it directly into an Access instance for us, as hosted by Matt Green. There we go. Let's do that one. So I've launched a couple of records now, and you can see a couple of things happening. So this is an Access instance. So if you're a techie on this call and you're kind of thinking, what is this? If you look at our price book, you've got the PaperCut email gateway, but this is actually becoming a product set in its own right. I don't have a huge amount of time to talk about it today, but effectively it's an inbound and an outbound tool that allows us to take stuff, do things with it, and fire it out the end. And in this case, we've got different plugins going in which allow us to do capture workflows and emails and bits and pieces that Matt's actually written. He's probably pulling his hair out right now because I'm not doing a great job of explaining very, very quickly. Suffice to say that this tool set is allowing us to interface Hive into just about anything in the back end. And if I take a look at what's gone on in there, you can see that I have a workflow running. This is a hosted version of Square9's Global Capture being available fully online. As we said, being nice, and I'm not supposed to say this, but there are other brands of tools, but we're particularly happy with the Global Capture tool online. And if we look at this, you can see one of the reasons is that we have these lovely portals that are available for capture, and we are able to search around it. So I've got a little search here. Okay, and you can see that there's the demo set that we went into. You can see that the fields that were actually input at the device are actually listed right here as well. I can come in here, I can look at those bits of metadata, I can see where I want to go. The most important piece is that the metadata fields that were added at the Hive piece are linked into that workflow. And then if I want to, I could actually open this stuff up. Let's actually run a full search so I can see everything that's going on. There we go. It's taking a little minute. So it always does when I'm having a webinar. There we are. And you can see that from here, I could decide to release it to Square 9, send that to accounts, launch it to folder, delete all the pages. Or of course, I could just open that file up in front of me and hopefully it'll be a picture of the Hive kitten. Quite why they went with the kitten, I don't know. I'm guessing that is someone's cat, so they didn't actually have to pay for a royalty. I'm guessing, well, that's it. So you can see this test worked perfectly. There's my metadata that's actually been driven across. There's the purchase order number value that was typed in at the machine, and my document has actually been delivered directly into workflow. And then if I choose to, from there, I can decide whether I want to send it. And like I said, I might want to send it into a CRM platform. I might want to send it to ERP. I might want to send it over to an accounts application. I might decide to bang that straight into the AI process for automated extraction of the rest of the invoice values, the line items and things like that. So that's all being driven with no need for it to sit in watch folders and stuff. The field data is being picked apart there by Matt's tool, and it's pretty dynamic. So long as the field matches at the beginning and the field matches at the end, it will actually route those things together. And as we said, that means that I can release that to all of those different tool sets that I might want to. And we could even use Access again if we wanted to shape that delivery into other platforms. So if people want to squirt to SMB, they can. If they want to send it over into Xero, we could manage that. If we want to fire it into an ERP, shape it up for a database entry, all of those things can be done. So that's it working to the Square 9 global capture piece. Of course, if you wanted to, you could just simply use Access to route that to SMB or to whatever you might want to do with the correct paths and file names. We also have our lovely folder tool, and you'll see here that this is, hopefully, if I come into it, let me run a search. Let's try and do this. If I've got, there you go. I've got a search there because we set some bits and pieces, and you'll see the scan test user. And once again, you can see the supplier invoice value has been populated into it. The status has been populated into it. The document number has been populated into it via the Hive interface. And if I take a look at that, you can see there it is again. There's my GL code that's actually pushed there. All the data was farmed in directly via the JSON data that came from the Hive client. Now, what's different about folder is we don't need to be running anything else. We don't need the Access Gateway to do this. We are using the MASH component that makes that work. And to show you how simple that is to actually set up, very much like Matt's different thing where we can simply edit the values that we want to. There you go. Within this one, I can simply say, let's configure that. And I just tell it exactly where within my appliance I want that to run. And I can simply drop that into these different sections, and away it goes. And that's all it is to configure. And as long as there is a field value within the folder appliance and there is a matching field value within the Hive client, it links one to the other, and Robert's your mother's brother. That's kind of what there is to it. So PaperCut Hive, you have the ability to create and add these custom field values. There we go. Let's try and do it. Add a custom field. It really is this simple. Wherever it is, yeah, max, because this is all about max. And there we go. Let's do that as a drop list. And what's your favorite color? Blue?
Yeah,
I'm an orange kind of a guy.